Hello and welcome back to Mariana in Yucatan. I am an immigration and property lawyer found in Mérida, Yucatan, but also a certified real estate agent. My motive with this channel is to help you really dive into moving to Mexico, investing in Mexico, especially in this area of Yucatan, but with the most information possible, and also, why not, great opportunities for you to invest. I've been wanting to do this specific video for a while because when we go through real estate transactions, there's always the question of what are the steps to follow? What are the things I need to expect, timings, etc.? And I thought this conversation is one of the things that most clients ask us. And I believe that having this video in YouTube for you to be able to check and revise when you're ready to make this very important goal a reality will be very beneficial for all of the listeners. I also want to ask you that if you do like this content, please feel free to subscribe and also to push notifications button. And of course, follow us on our social media. I will put everything down below so that you know all the new updates regarding these matters. And of course, if you are looking to invest in Yucatan or Quintana Roo, please feel free to send me a message. I would love to help you. So starting to dive on the steps that need to happen once I found this property that I would like to purchase. Now, let me say that, of course, finding a property that you love, you feel would fit your needs and your dreams in Mexico is always a matter of time. Sometimes it's good to rent, live in the area a little bit, or at least ask around to know what things you can find in the area, if that would fit your needs, etc. But once we have that property in mind, what is the next step? Well, in the area of Yucatan, the first step would be to give an apartado. This means a type of down payment where we separate the property, which is putting it out of the market and separating it to be able to revise all the legal documentation and sign the next step, which we will talk about in a little bit. The down payment or apartado really depends on the agency that you're working with and the owner. This could be about $1,000 to up to $3,000 or $4,000 US, which could be 20, 30, 50, or even 60,000 pesos, which is directly deposited to the account, either in cash or via electronic transfer of the agency that represents the seller. Of course, there is a receipt done where this deposit should be refundable. It is given again so that the property goes out of the market and you can receive all the legal documentation to be able to revise that everything is good to go, and also talk about the conditions that will follow up and prepare the next step, which is called the promissory agreement of sale. During this part of the process, you might have negotiations, maybe there's points where you don't agree. So as long as you don't reach really a conclusion or an agreement of parties, if you ask the deposit back in time and form, you can get this deposit back fully. Of course, if you delay and ask for this deposit after, then you will lose the deposit. It's very important to check with your real estate agent, the one that represents you, that when you give this down payment or apartado, there is the receipt involved that mentions not only that this is a fully refundable deposit, but also some of the conditions that you want to be pre-approved. We could compare this to doing the offer. Nevertheless, here in Yucatan, it's not very common to find offers. Really, this is done with the apartado. Step number two. Step number two is the drafting and signing of the promissory agreement of sale. Now, what is this document? Well, a promissory agreement of sale is a legal document, legal binding document, where we put, I like to call it, all the rules of the game. So the rules, regulations that will transpire, that will be important from the time of you giving now the big down payment, which could be 20% out of the value of the property, up to the final signing before the notary, which will be your final title. It is important to take time to be able to review this promissory and add onto this document every single detail that has to be taken into account. What are some of those details? Some of the details that are important to have in this promissory are, for example, the information of both parties, seller and future buyer. We also need to have the promised purchase price set and also the method of payment. Will this be in 2 payments? Will it be in different payments? When will these payments be done? This needs to be very, very well written and specific on this contract. We also have the penalties. If I back out of the process, what is my penalty? If you back out as the seller, what is your penalty? Another important detail is, when are we going to sign the final title? Also, could there be some time extension or absolutely not? These details are important because, again, they are the rules that both parties will follow from the moment of the big down payment, which could be, again, 20, 10, or 30% of the total value of the property, down to signing the final title. If you are doing an escrow, it's very important also to have in this promissory agreement that note, a clause where you're specific regarding using escrow as the method of payment. I will do another video in the future regarding escrow in Mexico. But for now, remember that you need to put this detail in the promissory agreement of sale. This document, the promissory agreement, can be signed privately. That means that if you are not in Mexico, you're able to sign this document by hand and send it through DHL or FedEx to have the other party signed. This is a totally valid document. Now, you also have the option of going with a notary and signing it in front of them. But both options are valid in Mexico. Now, step number 3. Following up with the promissory contract of sale and having it signed, then we will go to step 3, which is preparing the final title. In this stage, we will use the strategy that we talked on the first calls, whether if you're buying through a bank trust as a foreigner or as a Mexican coming back to Mexico, or through a Mexican company. We will give a down payment to the notary for their services, which also includes taxes for the government. The seller party will also gather some needed documents, and all this information has to be passed to the notary so that they can prepare the final title. If there's a bank trust involved, there's also some payments involved with the bank, and also we need to get something called a permit from the Secretary of Foreign Affairs to be able to do this bank trust. In the future, and if you haven't seen our Instagram, we talk a lot about methods of purchase for foreigners. There we explain why foreigners need to use a bank trust or a Mexican LLC to be able to purchase in Mexico. Stage number 4. Once everything is ready, then we can check together the final title. The final title also needs to be very specific, so make sure that you check with your lawyer or real estate agent everything before signing. Before the notary, you will have to pay the last payment of the property, and both parties will come together to the notary's office to sign the final title. Step number 5. After signing the final title and giving all the last payments to the notary, the bank, etc., now is the time to wait. You're a new homeowner, so congratulations. But there's another step in which the notary will be involved, as well as your lawyer and real estate agent. This is regarding registering your title that has been signed before the Public Registry of Property and Commerce in Yucatan or in the state that you signed. This process can take about 3, 4, even 6 months, depending on the load of work of the public registry and the notary that you choose. But don't worry, once you sign before the notary, this is just a formality. But make sure to follow up with the notary, your real estate agent, or the lawyer that helped you so that you can receive your final title with the seals of having it registered before the Public Registry of Property and Commerce. This will protect you against third parties with an interest or a possible interest on the property. Well, I hope that this video has helped you to be able to understand the process of purchase in Mexico a little bit more. Of course, this is details a little bit more simple, but if you are looking into purchasing in Mexico and you need help or you have more questions, make sure to contact me. I would love to make your Mexico dream a reality. And don't forget to subscribe again. In our next videos, we will talk more about immigration, residencies, purchasing in Mexico, and more real estate opportunities for you. Bye bye.